Benjamin Franklin wrote, "The colonies would gladly have borne the little tax on tea and other matters had it not been that England took away from the colonies their money, which created unemployment and dissatisfaction." This is extremely important for you guys to understand. Money is the key to the whole thing. Money is the control mechanism. And as he said, I was taught in school, and you probably have been taught too when it comes to the American Revolution, oh, they fought it over that tax on tea. No way. They fought because their money was taken away. The colonies were issuing what was known as colonial scrip, and this was issued through the various colonies, and it was based on the available work, labor, and services, and they were prospering because the money was solid. It was backed by something, okay? And they did not have to pay interest on their money. Well, of course, this did not sit well with the financial powers of Europe, namely the Rothschilds. And Baron Rothschild, of course, controlled the Bank of England. So they twisted the arm of the royals, and they had King George approve a law, and it was passed in Parliament, that made colonial scrip illegal. You had to deal in Bank of England notes, interest-bearing notes. And this was the cause of the revolution. They tried twice, 3 times actually, to have a central bank, and each time the bank was corrupt. The bank charged exorbitant interest rates, and the bank was responsible for farmers falling into debt, losing their farms, etc., etc. And of course, by the 1830s, Andrew Jackson, the first president born west of the Mississippi, said, "That's it, they're a den of vipers," and he did away with the central bank. For his trouble, they tried to impeach him, but he missed being impeached. Now, think about that. He gets impeached because he was shutting down a central bank. Bill Clinton gets impeached because he's having sex with an intern. Jeez. How far we have come. Okay. So all through the late 1800s, there was no central bank. I also might mention that twice in American history, 2 American presidents have tried to issue their own currency, not through the Federal Reserve System or through the international bankers, but by issuing it through their own Treasury Department. And one was Abraham Lincoln, who said, in effect, that issuing money was one of the key privileges of government, okay? So he issued greenbacks, non-interest-bearing notes, to finance the war between the states. The other president was John F. Kennedy, who in June of 1963 issued $4.2 billion in United States notes. I have a couple of examples of this, of a $5 bill that was United States note. It's got red ink on it. It does not say Federal Reserve note. It says United States note. This was money issued through the Treasury Department. What's the difference? $5, $5. The worth of it is not any different. The difference is that through the Federal Reserve System, you have to pay interest on the money. You issue the money through the Treasury Department, you don't pay interest on the money. And if you know anything about finances, you understand that the biggest bulk of the yearly budget of the United States goes to, quote, retire the national debt, which is a fancy way of saying paying interest on the money we owe. And I don't think that it was some sort of coincidence that both Lincoln and Kennedy were shot in the head in public. This is what happens when you mess with the moneyed people. We got the Federal Reserve System through this man, Paul Warburg, a German banker, who came to the United States and participated in 1910 in the meeting at J.P. Morgan's hunting lodge on Jekyll Island off the coast of Georgia, where he met with the big bankers, and they said, we've got to set up a system. And they said, but we cannot call it a central bank. So what emerged from that was finally passed into law on December the 24th, Christmas Eve, with most of the Congress away for holidays and everyone clearly distracted by Christmas, and they rammed through the Federal Reserve Act in 1912. This created the Federal Reserve System. Now, the way it works is pretty simple. Congress authorizes debt. Congress says, okay, we need more money, so let's issue another $100 million. So then once they authorize this debt, then the Federal Reserve System spends a few $100 on paper and ink and prints up $100 million and distributes it out through the country, through their 12 regional banks. Now, they turn around and charge the government. Do they charge the government for the few $100 they spent on the paper and the ink? No. They charge the government for $100 million, and we have to pay the interest on it. And they found a German army intelligence agent named Adolf Hitler who was reporting back to his captain, making a few extra bucks by being an intelligence operative for the German military. And he said, hey, I infiltrated this little party called the German Workers' Party. And I might digress a minute to point out to you, because I hear all the time, I'm just one person. What can I do? Well, let me tell you something. When Hitler went to the first meeting of the German Workers' Party that he attended, guess how many people were there? 9. 9 people. And he took over, before long became head of the German Workers' Party, and from then on, you know what happened after that. During the Bush administration, of course, they couldn't call it National Socialism. That had bad connotations. So they called it neoconservatism, the neocons. When you hear about the neocons, just understand we're talking about National Socialist. That's what we're talking about. And Hitler then was put into power, funded through the Bank of International Settlements by Dillon Reed, the National City Bank, which, by the way, in the 30s, the chairman of National City Bank was John J. McCloy. Okay, and they were the largest lenders of money to Nazi Germany. Union Banking Corporation was another American bank out of Chicago that was very instrumental in laundering Nazi money, providing funds to the Nazis, and guess who the director of Union Banking Corporation was that was in charge of that? Prescott Bush, the grandfather of George W. Bush and the father of George Herbert Walker Bush. And in fact, in late 1942, halfway through World War II for America, he was actually prosecuted by the federal government of the United States under the Trading with the Enemies Act, stripped of his holdings in Union Banking Corporation and the American Hamburg Steamship Line, which, by the way, he sat on the board of directors along with Max Warburg. All right, and this, the American Hamburg Steamship Line was the largest company that was bringing Nazi saboteurs, propaganda, and money into the United States. So he was stripped of his holdings and fined a few $1 million and basically slapped on the wrist. And but nothing much was said about that. Okay, but then we voted in a Republican administration, George W. Bush. George Bush's son, another neocon or another National Socialist. Look at his cabinet: Dick Cheney, Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice, Donald Rumsfeld, Robert Gates, Elaine Chao, Christine, all Council on Foreign Relations. So what's changed? But now we got Barack Obama, go-go dancer in the 80s, smooth-talking young man, a man of color, a man who promises change. Oh, and let's look at his cabinet. Oops, Robert Gates is still on there, but now he's Secretary of Defense. And we got Janet Napolitano, Bill Richardson, Susan Rice, James Jones, Timothy Geithner, Larry Summers, all Council on Foreign Relations. What's changed? Nothing. The rich party is still in power. And they're going to stay in power as long as they can control the masses. And this is why you never hear an American politician today refer to the republic, because we are no longer a republic. We are an empire. No secret society members should belong to Congress or to your parliament, because they take oaths of allegiance that supersede their oaths to their country and to you. We need to do away with the Patriot Act, which is nothing more than just an updated version of Hitler's Enabling Act. And we need to have no more cover-up commissions. And we need to enforce the 10th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, which states that anything that is not power that is not specifically delegated to the federal government belongs to the people in the states.